Welcome to the AB Suite 7.0 New Product Information Transfer. This presentation is about upgrading from EAE to standard mode. The process of upgrading from EAE to AB Suite 7.0 will start with the import of an EAE MDL file to a migration database. Now, the import of EAE MDL files will always use standard mode. So if this import is creating a new model database in AB Suite, then that will be created as a standard mode model. If you're importing into an existing model database, then that model database must already be a standard mode model database. I'd like to do a quick demonstration of the process of upgrading from EAE to AB Suite 7.0. Okay, so this process starts by running import. Let's enter the name of our model. And let's pick our model file. This is a model file, a .mdl file that has been extracted from EAE. Now note that we have the migration database option set, so we're importing into a migration database in this first step. So let's click OK to get the process going. Now this process will take a few minutes, so I'll just fast forward to the end. Okay, so that process is completed. We've now imported the EAE.mdl model into a migration database. The next step is to run export, to export that to an AB Suite.model file, and then import that into the final AB Suite model database. So let's run export to export from the model database. So we select our migration database. And we enter a file name. And once again, I'll fast forward to the end. Okay, that has been completed. So now we have the final step to import that AB Suite.model file into our final model database. Okay, that's complete. So now the last step is to create a Visual Studio project to connect to that model, and then let's open that up and have a look. So we want to go to the Create New Project link, and we want to attach to an existing model. This is the model that we have just imported through the upgrade process from EAE. Okay, let's have a quick look in the class view at what we've got. So now we can see that our model is available in AB Suite. The tag tells us that it's a standard mode model, and the green icon for the model node also tells us that. So we've now migrated our EAE model, and we now have a standard mode model in AB Suite 7.0. Now, for those of you familiar with the process of upgrading from EAE to AB Suite, we'll note that nothing has changed here from previous releases. It is still the same basic process. The only difference with 7.0 is that in AB Suite it will import into standard mode. Now, the thing about standard mode is that it supports all of the capabilities of EAE, but some of the more advanced features of AB Suite are either unavailable, they're hidden, or simply not emphasized. They may actually be there, but they're not emphasized through the user interface and the options available through the development user interface. And the objective of standard mode is to give a slightly simplified set of functionality that is still familiar to an EAE developer. Now, it definitely has the look and feel of AB Suite. It is AB Suite. It has a modern user interface for the development environment. It is embedded within Visual Studio, but the set of functionality is equivalent to the corresponding set of functionality available from EAE. So just to explain that a little bit further, some of the advanced features that are not available, firstly there's no inheritance. So in advanced mode in AB Suite you can make classes or iSpecs inherit from each other. So you can have a base class with general functionality and you can create subclasses which specialize that functionality. Well, in standard mode there is no inheritance. You won't see the inherits property at all. There is limited encapsulation. So the object-oriented concept of encapsulation says that data should be private and you access the data through public methods. And to support that in advanced mode, almost all members that you add, attributes, methods, will by default be private. But this is different to EAE. In EAE, for example, when you add data items to an iSpec, they're fully visible, which is equivalent to being public. So in standard mode, most members that you add to any class will by default be public. There's no general use classes in standard mode. So in EAE, there's a whole series of element types that are available to you, and in AB Suite the corresponding elements are classes with a stereotype, iSpec, report, frame, and so on. But also in advanced mode there are general use classes which have no stereotype. That means they have no built-in behavior, and you can create classes that do whatever you want them to do. But in standard mode they're not available. So you just have the standard stereotyped classes available to you. User-defined methods are not emphasized in standard mode. So in EAE you write your logic in for an iSpec in pre-screen, pre-link, main logic. You can write logic in main logic for a frame, or you can write your logic in a performable global logic. Now these all correspond to methods. In standard mode we will certainly emphasize what we call the standard framework methods. So pre-screen, pre-link and main. However, we do use the AB Suite term for those, which is construct, prepare and main. And the equivalent of performable global logics in standard mode is a method within the segment, but we actually do use the EAE term performable in the user interface to make it more familiar. Beyond that, other user-defined methods are still available in standard mode, but they're just de-emphasized in that it's not obvious how to add them through the user interface, but if you know the path to add them, they can still be used. And another feature that's not available is XML processing. This was new functionality that was introduced in AB Suite 6.1. Certainly available in advanced mode, but not in standard mode. Some other simple changes are that the add menu, which is actually used very heavily to whenever you're adding new elements to your model, it is more simplified in standard mode. So first of all, in advanced mode, the add menu tends to contain a lot of things, everything that's possible to add in any particular context. Whereas in standard mode, we've made it simpler. We've just filled the add menu with just the most commonly used element types. There is always the add new element option, in which you can add anything in any context. And lastly, there are some of the more advanced properties have been hidden, and they just have default values created behind the scenes. So it just reduces the clutter and some of the more advanced concepts from a standard mode user. I'd just like to do a quick demonstration of all of those features of standard mode. So first of all, no inheritance. Well, we can browse through the class view here, and if I select an iSpec and I look in the type category, notice that there is no inherits property. So in an advanced mode model, we would have an inherits property, and we would be able to set up inheritance between iSpecs and other types of classes as well. Another old use of the inherits property was with attributes, where in previous releases the inherits property was used to define the type. And now we use the template property. So once again, you won't see the inherits property here. So in advanced mode, you'll still see an inherits property for classes, and in standard mode, you won't see an inherits property at all. The next feature is the change in the visibility property, the default value of the visibility property. So if I add a new attribute to a class, we can see here attribute 1, if I go and have a look at the visibility property, it's defined as public. And we can see that in the icon right here, that it doesn't have the little padlock as part of the icon, and that tells us straight away that this is a public attribute. Just to show what that icon looks like, if I make it private, we do get the little padlock on the icon. But so by default, in most circumstances, members are added with public visibility, very similar to the equivalent functionality in EAE. In standard mode, there are no general use classes. So if in any context I right-click and I go to the Add menu, you can see here that I have all of the standard stereotype classes available. So classes with a stereotype. But I don't have an option anywhere here to add a class. That option would be right here in the menu in advanced mode, but in standard mode it's just not available, so that ability doesn't exist. The next item is methods. Now in advanced mode in AB Suite, you can add a user-defined method just about anywhere, within any class, an iSpec, a report, a frame, a general use class, anywhere. And the add menu on those items will always include an entry for method. However, in standard mode, we've tried to simplify that and emphasize the use of the standard logics that are in use in EAE. And we've hard-coded the entries to allow you to add those easily. For example, in an iSpec, I right-click, go to Add, and I have entries for the three built-in methods: main, construct, prepare. Now, of course, these are using the AB Suite terminology. Construct is the equivalent of pre-screen, and prepare is the equivalent of pre-link from EAE. But anyway, these allow us to quickly and easily add any of those three standard logics. For example, if I want to add construct to my iSpec, I just select that menu item. In EAE, you're able to create what are essentially user-defined methods at the segment level, and they're performable global logics. Well, if we right-click on the segment and go to the Add menu, you'll see we have an item on the menu called Performable. It has the little method icon, and this is really just adding a method to the segment, which is the equivalent of a performable global logic in EAE. And on the menu here, we've used the EAE term performable, just to make it more familiar to EAE users. Now, although we've de-emphasised the use of user-defined methods within iSpecs and reports to some extent, they are actually still available. So if we go to the Add menu for an iSpec, we can see that we've got the standard built-in methods available to add directly. But if we go to this item here, Add New Item, it brings up a dialog box which includes anything that would be valid in this context. And this does, in fact, include an entry for method. So I can select method, and I can create a user-defined method in my iSpec, and I can give it any name. I've been showing a few examples of using the Add menu. Now, in fact, the Add menu has changed in standard mode in that it's been simplified and streamlined. Now, in advanced mode, if you go to the Add menu in any context, it's usually got a lot of items on it, and it really often presents any kind of element that would be valid in that context. However, in standard mode, we've tried to simplify the list of available elements to only those that make sense in that context. For example, for an iSpec, we just get an abbreviated list of just those few things that would be typical to add to an iSpec when using the product in an EAE-like manner. So for example, with a report, the Add menu, I can just add an attribute, the main method, a frame, a group, or a file, which is an extract file. So they're just the typical kinds of elements that would be contained within a report. Of course, if there's anything in addition to that that I want to add, I can always go to Add New Item, which gives me everything that could possibly be entered or would be valid to enter in that context. Another aspect where we've slightly simplified and streamlined things is in the properties window displayed here. There are a handful of the more advanced properties, which in general we've hidden. In standard mode, we just give them a default value and then hide them. One example of that is in a class. Now, is really an advanced visibility type property. In a standard mode model, we just make everything to have is in a class equals true, because that corresponds with the visibility concepts that come from EAE. And that concludes this presentation on upgrading from EAE and standard mode. Thank you.